Hello, so today I want to talk about the effects of global warming, not just how it affects the globe, but how it also affects each person in their social system. Their economy, their culture, even public health to an extent. There's a huge effect that's been going on with global warming, and this is not a controversial debate where I'm saying global warming is real, global warming is not real. It's just to give you the facts that's going on right now. How everything is changing, how species are dying off because of these effects. So first off, I want to start off with the change of sea levels. So as I say in the first bullet point there, it's the highest it's ever been. There was a study done by Thomas Sumner where 2,800 years ago, they weren't even thinking that sea levels would be at where they are today. Sea levels are rising 1.4 millimeters a year. Yes, that doesn't seem like anything to the naked eye, but they did a simulation, the same people, they did a simulation where they took out the effects of global warming, and sea levels are only rising zero point 0.7 millimeters a year. So it's double to what it should actually be. And that's not good at all. You know, with the rising of sea levels, it's also taken out the coastlines. Coastlines are being eroded away because sea levels are coming in closer and closer to land because all the glaciers are melting. And, glaciers are huge chunks of ice. So if the globe wasn't warming, how would they be able to melt? Because they are in two of the coldest places on Earth. It's not going to get much colder. But if they're melting and those species are also dying off, there's something going on. And I also feel that we have no control over it at this point because it's getting so out of hand. But like I said, I don't want to make a debate out of it. Also, a huge effect that it's been having going on is the change of temperature. The change of temperature, you wouldn't think much about it. To us, with the weather being warmer, we like that. But it's also not good for certain species. So as these temperatures are warming up, we use, February is a huge example. They were saying that records are being broken within a week because temperatures are hitting 60 in February. Yes, to us that feels good because, a lot of the humans don't like the cold. But there's the species where the weather's getting warmer, they think the season's changing. So when the season's changing, they go into the migration period. Whether they migrate too early or they migrate to a new area, because depending on how they want the temperature to be, for more cold tolerant animals or the warm tolerant animals, they're going to new areas. So they could be expecting new predators, new surrounding areas, so they're not going to know where they're at. There's nothing familiar to them. You know, the all the greenhouse gases are being trapped in the air, causing you basically a fog over the atmosphere, making a whole new simulation of seasons. And with the change of seasons, it's causing species and plant species to want to bloom or migrate early. You can go out to your gardens nowadays and you'll already see plants blooming in February. That doesn't seem normal to me at all. And not only does this atmosphere change just the species, it also changed the air and water quality. Density is being decreased in both aspects. With the water decreasing, it's not allowing as much sunlight to get into the water for plants to gain the nutrients that they need. And also, in turn, plants don't get the nutrients they need to grow. Pl- Animals, in turn, don't get the nutrients for them to grow. And also, it's also causing major coral reefs to go in extinction because they're not getting the proper nutrients they need, so they're blanching and dying off. It's just not good at all. So next, I want to talk about also how it affects the economy. Now, a lot of people don't think much about this of how it affects just the people, how people gain the money. There was a study done by Perkins in New Hampshire where businesses there were closing down because of the change of the environment. Cod fishing industries were changing because cod are finding new areas to go to because where they're at isn't what they're used to. A lot of the lodges like for ski resorts are being closed down because the ski resorts are melting in Jackson ski tourism, they saw effects of global warming on 100 miles worth of trails. Yes, they were given a grant and donations to smooth out the trails, but that's not going to stop global warming or the snow from melting at all. So, and then as in turn, people go to these tourisms, to ski and snowboard, obviously, but there's also the species they go see. There's species that are migrating out of America and moving to Canada because they need those cold tolerant places and they can't get that here. Ski resorts are melting because of, the world is warming. So if they're migrating to Canada, we're not going to have as much species as we used to have anymore. And also excuse me, with changing, with them smoothing out the trails, it's also destroying habitats. So there's nothing good coming out of trying to fix these ski resorts for them to gain money because it's also in turn losing them money because they're destroying the surrounding habitats or the trails or things like that. Go along with the whole economy sort of thing. This is also people's careers, which is agriculture. Like I said, like there's two bullet points there, erosion and rain. When you think of rain, you would think of it being good for the plants, it's allowing crops to grow, they have the water that they need and everything like that. But there's also been studies in North Carolina where there's been too much rain, where it's eroding all the soil away from the crops or the coastlines. And the coastlines, well, as the coastlines are eroding away, the sea level's coming in and eroding more of the farmland. And also, when the times there aren't rain, like I told you, like I said with the whole air quality changing, the air quality is also getting drier. So as it's getting drier, it's causing more droughts to happen. And as droughts are happening, that's more fire that the plant's going to catch on fire. Like, similar to how forest fires are created and stuff, and things like that. To North Carolina, their coastline's really important for everything they do, but it's just being washed away, and they can't do anything about it. Now on to us. As a lot of people realize, unless you're extremely environmentalist, you don't think there's much to have on people themselves when it comes to global warming. But in actuality, like I said before, the air and water qualities are changing. You know, the quality of how we live is going to change because our surrounding environment is changing. We also have unpredictable disasters. A lot more natural disasters are going to happen. There's been a lot more hurricanes, tornadoes, and those kinds of areas. But it's also the weather that's going to change on us, the temperatures, ideas like that. So, like I said, with February having some of the highest temperatures February's ever had, that's dangerous because as temperatures are getting warmer, you can't predict that because it changes year by year, but it's also dangerous to the elderly and anyone young and like anyone really young or have asthma because they can't predict when it's going to be super hot and super dry at the same time because it's always changing. They try to base it off of how it was last year, but you can't do that at this type of weather because it's constantly changing. Last year, like I'll pull up the February again. Last year in February, it was still normal temperatures, but this year it's jumped up. Just in a week, we had 60-degree weather and then it dropped down to 16. You can't predict that. In the beginning of the week, it showed average temperatures all across the board, except for maybe Wednesday where it showed 60 something or 70 something. But then by the weekend came around, it was saying there was going to be lows of 16. How do you prepare for that? There's nothing you can to prepare for that. Lastly, we just need to look towards the future. I've looked into the agency with the EPA of what they believe that you guys or that we should be doing, not just you guys. I'm sorry. We should be looking at to more full fuel efficient cars. Reduce energy uses, conserve your energy, energy efficient light bulbs. Um, Try to use less heating and cooling energies. Reduce your lawn size, recycle a whole lot more, and also changing colors. Now you're probably wondering what I mean by that. Changing colors is based off your environment. So let's say it's a colder day or during the winter, you could wear darker colors because that's just going to warm you up easier. But during the warmer time, you could wear lighter colors, which because it cools you off a lot more. I just want to thank you guys for listening.